So hello everyone. Today we are going to hear from Jackie Gerstein, who will be speaking about Maker Education, an idea whose time has come. So go ahead and take it away, Jackie.
Hey everybody, I'm trying to load my slides, but if you look at that, can everybody hear me? Let's start with that. I've been having some collaborate problems. Thanks, Peggy. Good to see you again. Thanks, Gabriella. All right, so I'm Jackie, and I'm an experiential educator, and I know this is a homeschool conference, and you're probably familiar with experiential ed. I'll address it in a little bit. But I come from hands-on, making, doing, whole body type learning. And now with the Maker movement, it's, for me, I'm slipping into it real easily. I know other educators are finding, oh, I think it's processing my slides. Yay. Nope, then it just dumped it. So I like to, I'm multitasking. So if you, I'll put this link in again. And I created this thing with all kinds of stuff happening to this screen. Something's trying to load. I have a really funky screen in front of me. I don't understand it, but okay. So if you see that,
Jackie, I put the.
Go ahead. Looks like the Google. Are you trying to load Google?
Presentation link in. Yeah, I put it in under the web tour link. You could possibly lead people through the slides on the web.
I didn't mean to make you all choked up about it. All right.
That was an espresso bean, so thank you.
Y'all are going to have to click with me if it's a web tour. Does everybody see the Maker Education idea who's come slide? But now I can't get the chat. Oh, there we go. Everybody see that? See, there's always workarounds. Yeah, we can't. All right. I'm going to try one more time. So you're going to see a link. We'll have you do that. That says Experiential Learning. I can't scroll up anymore because I'm trying to load slides. Does everybody see the one that, if you scroll up, I put it in a little earlier? Y'all see that? Yeah, I can't because my slides are loading, but if you scroll up, the link is up. I put it in a little earlier. And you could watch that in your browser. There you go. Thank you, Rochelle. Oh, I gotcha. So what you're going to do, this is a Mozilla. I don't know why it doesn't like my slides. This is a Mozilla remix, and as you watch it in your own browser, this experiential learning, it's a background, it's a little piece from CNN about Maker Education. You're going to see pop-ups, and those pop-ups are actually links. So it's a pretty cool tool. I always like to show tools along with content, and as you watch that, you can actually click on those little pop-ups and they'll take you to a web page of information, and then you could come back, it'll stop the video, it'll come back and you could start the video from where you stopped it. Oh, cool. Okay, Peggy. So why don't y'all, the video's about 3 minutes, but if you want to look at the link, so why don't we give you about 4 minutes and we'll try to work through this some more. And it's my introduction to Maker Education, and today I'm hoping to share with you some resources and ideas and give you lots to think about after the presentation. So I'm going to work through this. Let me know if you have any trouble or you don't understand about watching this. It's a video, this experiential learning that Rochelle put in. Again, a video with links through Mozilla. I forgot what it's called. Popcorn. All right. Let me try this again. Oh, you know, Peggy, that's a understatement. Isn't that funny? I hadn't realized it, but I think one of the adjectives with Maker Education is passion. So let me know your thoughts about a piece that you found interesting as you watch the video and click through the links I provided. And I love using the chat box, so please feel free. I'm going to try cutting out some of these slides and seeing if that will help me load better. All right. I think they might be too big, Steve. We might have gotten it. No. I can't. No, I have to get them to you. There's a Google Doc that you could download if you scroll up. Oh, no, you weren't here. I'm trying to load the slides, so I can't access. I was going to give you the Google file, and then you could download them as PowerPoint. There you go. Rochelle, you're on this. All right, it's almost processing. Let's see. Oh, my gosh, and there it is. All right. Bueno. All right, so let me know when you're done with the video and any ideas, and then it was actually only the 3rd slide, so we're almost on time. Great, Peggy. All right, so like I said, these pop-ups create, it's a cool tool to link video with more information. How's everybody else doing? Let me know when Mike, Jenny, Heidi, Dejan, Caitlin, I don't know if you're listening in. Yeah, it's such a good, well, you'll see some of my ideas in a minute. All right, I'm going to continue. I don't know if people are multitasking, which I do too, so I understand that. Yeah, the solar-powered lunchbox was cool. So you saw in the video there was Dale Doherty, and he's pushing the Make movement, and he started in California. Now there's maker fairs, and he's now pushing into education, make education. So it's just a pretty cool movement. So I love this quote and oh, by the way, the Google link that Rochelle put in here has these slides in it, so you have them later, which also links. So you can't access, and I'll put some of the links in the chat, but you can access them through the Google slides, and I'll put that link in at the end for you also. But I love this quote, and I'm going to read a few quotes. I usually don't read a lot, but this is a beautiful quote. When a kid builds a model rocket or a kite or a birdhouse, She not only picks up math, physics, and chemistry along the way, she also develops her creativity, resourcefulness, planning, abilities, curiosity, engagement with the world around her. I think all teachers, homeschool, informal, after school, classroom, I think everything we do with our students should engage not only, when we do a worksheet, all you do is learn that worksheet, one content area, but I believe all learning should be multidisciplinary, whole body, and Maker Education just lends itself to that, as well as some other things, which I'll talk about in a little while. Oh, Heidi, we're going on, but you can actually, you'll have access to it later, so. All right, so this is just a little overview of what I'm going to cover. I talk fast, I share fast. I know sometimes I drive Peggy nuts, but that's okay, because then you'll have the resources afterward. Again, that's my whole idea, is to just get you excited and share some things with you, and then have you look at them later. So some theoretical background. I've been looking at different ways. A lot of people are going, well, what's Maker Education? And I want to give it some validity by looking at some of the historical precedents for it, and so people can understand it from a historical perspective. And that's what this next little piece is about. The first one is, and I know all of you have heard of John Dewey, yes? I'm going to ask you to just do smiley faces a lot, which you could find under, if you look above main room, there's a little icon that's a face all the way to the left. And you could do smiley faces when I ask questions. Yeah, that's a great video. So smiley faces, you could do slow down, go faster. There's a lot of icons, and I do look at the chat, so you can be using those. So smiley face, if you've heard of John Dewey, I think most of us have, but this is a great little quote from him. Give the pupils something to do, not something to learn, and the doing is of such a nature as to demand thinking. Learning naturally results. So my background, as I said, is in experiential education, and when I looked at the principles of experiential education, I found that a lot of them do match when we think about pure and really really cool Maker Ed programs, again, based more in formal settings, libraries, fairs, museums. We see a lot of those experiential education principles. This is an infographic I created for it. Again, you could click into links as I share them. If you get lost in a link and stop paying attention to me, that's fine, because then you're paying attention to something that's cool, and that's what good learning is about. And again, if you have questions, I do look at the chat. You don't have to wait till the end. You could, or comments, as Peggy been putting them in, and Heidi, you can throw them in, and I'll be watching the chat as we go along. A second thing that I've looked at that set a precedence for Maker Education is project-based learning. Folks heard of project-based learning before? Again, you could either put your answer in the chat or use the icon to do a smiley face. There's Caitlin, thank you. And here's a link where I discuss it some more. It's really interesting. Oh, great. There, Peggy's got it for me. Thank you, Peggy. I'm throwing it in, too. The thing about project-based learning is I love hearing people they have kids do a project in class and call it project-based learning. And this gentleman, Zach, I always forget Zach's last name. I think Peggy might know who it is. He's a student voice. He's just graduated from high school recently and really pushes for student voice in the classroom. But I heard him on a panel, and he said, you know, teachers gave me projects going through school, and they were just like a worksheet, something I needed to get done. So when we look at project-based learning, it has several characteristics that go beyond just doing it in the classroom. Yeah, it's interesting because he said, I so got it. I'm just throwing these up here. It's part of that link that we put in. I'm not going to read these. They're just for your consideration. What's interesting is it was such a big aha moment for me when Zach said that, because so what? So what? It's hands-on. You know, just like a teacher gets a test or a paper or a project, if it has no connection or meaning for the kid, then it's just something else for them to get done to get a grade. And I know Peggy and I were watching EduMotoCon yesterday, and it's really interesting to, and I had an aha, is if students are doing the work to get for the teacher, the grading criteria reflects if the students are doing it for the teacher or for themselves. And a lot of times it really is work for the teacher, which becomes busy work. Yeah, it was really, there were some really passionate educators. The next thing I look at is some work by John Seeley Brown. And if you're not familiar with his work, he's a brilliant, brilliant thinker. And he talks about this idea of tinkering. And tinkering is part of the maker movement. And this slide says it better than I can. And it's tinkering as an experimenter, a person who enjoys testing innovative ideas. She was an experiment in new forms of poetry. So it's really neat because maker movement, making things, is such a broad perspective, but tinkering could be tinkering with poetry, it could be tinkering with toys, it could be tinkering with ideas, so it's a really cool perspective. And again, I'm just sharing you some historical precedences and ways to look at maker movement from several different angles. And the next piece is this idea of play. And kids don't know how to play anymore. In this article, this piece, I took a lot of quotes, and where it stemmed from is, if you look at, y'all familiar with Legos, right? Well, they used what are those, Lincoln Logs and things like that, and they used to just come in a box, and you'd pour them out and just be creative. And now if you look at Legos, they have all these kits. I go by and I look at them in Walmart and things like that. There's all these kits that you are supposed to construct a certain thing. And that's what that really sparked my interest in this blog post and this idea of, are we letting kids don't know how to play anymore. Oh, tinker toys, that was the word I was thinking about. Tinker toys, tinkering. I just made that connection, that's pretty cool, huh? And this idea that kids I was teaching middle school physical science to non-science majors for about a semester at a private school, and we were studying Newton's law, and I brought in balloons and wheels and balsa wood and told them to build cars that propelled themselves with the balloons to study Newton's law, a form of maker, a form of, oh, it's so good, Mike, I hope you make it there. I'm dying to go to a maker fair. But I presented this stuff to these middle schoolers, and they looked at me and they said, Jackie, we have no idea how to approach this. They had no idea how to tinker with the stuff. And so this whole article is this idea of play, and there was an article in NPR yesterday about the importance of play with adults. I love to play, and I think we've gotten beyond it. It has so many, Mindshift, I think, had an article. Maybe Peggy could go find it. She's so good at that. Mindshift had an article this week about the importance of play in kids. But I also believe along with that, we have to help them with skills and scaffolds so they have some basic skills from which to build. Yeah, it does sound terrific. And these are just some ideas from that piece. You can just take a quick glance at them. And then the final theoretical background I'm going to share with you, and then we're going to move on to the educator as a maker, is this idea of STEM. And you can put a smiley face in the chat if you're familiar with STEM or STEAM, as they have direct connections to maker movement. Thanks, Rochelle. So this Make STEAM, there you go, thanks Peggy. This Make STEAM is our wordles, word bubbles of several articles I found about the STEAM being science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And if you click in this think link, this is the way I'm helping to legitimize the maker movement, especially to more formal teachers who are saying, well, we can't just have our kids tinkering. If you click in that thing link, I'm actually going to put it up here. All right. If you scroll over this, you'll see little bubbles. And if you click on them, you all have to do it yourself. I think if I'm clear about web tours is that people could interact with it. Yeah, I love ThinkLink too. If you can scroll over it. If you see a little bubble, oh, you can't see it in the web tour? Okay, Heidi, you can scroll over it. Are you seeing little bubbles? Okay. Because I do. I get it when I scroll over it. Yeah, you can put it in your browser. I put a whole bunch of resources. Oops, I don't think I wanted to do that. And what I did with that is found all the articles I could about STEAM so that you can use those as a way to legitimize Maker. So I'm trying to get back to the yeah, it really is. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Peggy. So the bottom line, when I look at theoretical background of Maker movement, this is a little saying I made from the old Confucius saying. Have me watch a video I forget. Ask me to do an online interactive I remember. Let me produce and create I learn. Yeah, I was pretty happy with it too, thanks. So, being a Maker educator, and Peggy's seen this, and I really like the idea of thinking about the teacher's role in Maker education. It's a very different role than the standard traditional teacher, whether it's homeschool, whether it's informal learning. A lot, even in informal settings, I see a lot of stage on the stage and a lot of instruction. And Maker movement and the Maker movement educator is a different way of being with kids. Yeah, it really is a different role. Yeah, I have, my saying is, be a tour guide of learning possibilities, show that your students are learners of possibilities and then get out of the way. I think and I'll show that again later, I think too often educators attempting to mean well, don't get out of the way and let kids struggle. I've seen kids struggle, fail, cry, and I want to go rescue them, but I know they're not going to learn best that way. So I've learned to just stand back and let them struggle, maybe offer suggestions. But for adults who care about kids, sometimes that feels counterintuitive to do that. So if we look at Dale Dougherty, who I mentioned earlier, has several good quotes that go with that. The kind of change we seek in education is part of the change that we are seeing all around us, the kind of change we seek in ourselves. We are living in a very different world now. And it's really up to us to really embrace what that means, both as a human being. Look, we're in a webinar from all parts of the world, or even all parts of the United States. It would even be amazing if it was all part of a single state. And so what that means is we need to interact with each other, with the world a little differently than we have, and we need to bring that in our educational settings. Oh, that's a cool one. Mentor in the middle. So fostering the maker mindset through education is a fundamentally human project to support the growth and development of another person, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally. Learning should be focused on the whole person. That goes back to experiential learning, and I have this sad joke that as kids get older, we tend to start teaching them from the ears up. What I mean by that is we start teaching them through just auditory, lecture kind of processes in their brain, and we forget about the rest of their body. And I think that's sad because I work with all kinds of kids and college students. I've worked with at-risk college students, and it's like, and I do a lot of hands-on with them, and they shine. These students who weren't able to shine by lecture and tests are shining by hands-on project-based learning. All right, so what I'm going to do is offer you a series of questions. What I'd like you to do is put hands-on and minds-on. Absolutely. It's going back to what Zach said earlier. Hands-on, minds-on. I call it heart-on. Your heart should be in it. So as I go through these series of questions, ask yourself if you do this, if you want to do this, or if you don't care one way or another. And then at the end of this assessment, I'm going to ask you to pick out one or two that you'd like to get better at. I don't know your settings, but I'm hoping, with a heart and passion, I'm hoping that you have a setting where you can practice this maker experiential mindset. All right, here we go. So do your learners produce as much or more of their learning materials as they consume? So in these days of creation, I love my learners to create their own learning materials, whether it be blogging, creating things for other students, creating things for themselves. Do your learners work harder than you during meeting times? I've taught elementary gifted kids, I've taught college students, and when I see them all sitting there falling asleep with the teacher just going at it up front, it really breaks my heart. I work really hard. Yeah, I work really hard before I go into a classroom preparing materials, but then the students, you'll barely see me. I'll be just going around after giving them directions and being a guide or facilitator. Does the physical setting of your classroom reflect an information-rich, connected, participatory, creative culture? Isn't that a great line? Information-rich, connected, participatory culture. If all the desks are facing the front of the room, we know, I can tell the second I walk into a classroom what type of environment. And, you know, is the teacher's desk up front, or is it thrown in a corner with all his or her materials on top? Well, that's pretty funny, too. Yeah, the custodians hated me. Hands-on means a lot of stuff on the floor. But then you have to get to know them. Is your classroom an open portal open to people, visitors, social networks? Do you allow your kids Skype in the classroom, global connections, people coming in? I have an open door policy for anybody, parents, people who want to see the classroom. Peggy and a couple other teachers, they wanted to come see my classroom in Arizona when I was there. I said, sure. And I loved, and so did the kids, loved people coming into the classroom. Do you assist your learners in finding, locating, and gathering their own personal learning networks to find their own online and face-to-face tribes? I just finished teaching a social network course to ed tech graduate students, and that I was excited. That's going to be a priority. People are starting school to have their students develop their own PLNs, personal learning networks. Kids are doing it. They get on Facebook. They get on Snapchat. They're finding people who at YouTube, who are playing the same musical instrument, who have the same hobby, who are playing the same online games, and they're finding their tribes. So we should actually facilitate that in the classroom. Do you encourage your learners to explore what could be in addition to what is? This is one I've been talking a lot about. I was just in a pottery workshop last week, and the instructor's been around forever, and he's a really renowned potter, and he was trying a new thing, and he said, and it wasn't working out quite right. He says, yeah, this is great. I'm at a workshop, and I'm showing people a demonstration, and it's not even working out right. And I looked at him, and I said, Jeff, you should be modeling your process of what could be as well as what you have already done. Have you and your learners developed creative methods for finding and gathering resources? This was, they just went outside. We found rocks and sand and sticks, and this was a setting to a story they were writing. We were doing group story writing, and this didn't cost any money. I was reading the chat. Do you focus as much or more on the process of learning as the products and outcomes? I really, you know, in most cases, I don't care what their outcomes are. This thing that these boys did wasn't that nice to look at. You're looking at it and saying, what is this? But I knew it was a pretty cool setting for a story. I knew they talked about each piece, and it was meaningful for them. And the act of communication, the act of developing the setting for their story was huge. So it was really about the process. Do your learners interact more with other students, professional web materials, and hands-on materials than with you? Of course, that's what big maker movement is about, failure and learning from your mistakes. Again, if you came into my classroom, this is, they were doing robotic hands following that way. There was directions to this one. But if a student asks me a question, they know that I asked, did you ask a question about content? And even a process, if I've already talked about it, I'd say, did you ask the other students? Did you get online? Why are they being dependent on the educator when there's so many resources? So I want them, again, related to the process of learning, to learn how to ask yourself help and seek it from a variety of resources. Do you set a climate for learners to be kind, concerned, passionate, and compassionate? This is probably one of my favorites. A lot of Maker Education is about sharing, is about collaboration, and it becomes naturally, and I want them to be a community where they're respectful of one another. And you build community as well as allow for independence, individuality, uniqueness of thought. This was a cool activity. They did cats of their favorite characters, literary characters. Yeah, you could see Bunny in I forgot what the little bunny was, but Harry Potter. He did the kid in the middle. He was a historian in the middle back. He did Abe Lincoln, the story of Abe Lincoln. But so I think too often schools are about standardization, and I do want a community, but I want each person to have their own unique flavor in that community. To encourage student voice in all its forms, speech, writing, drawings, and media creation. This is incredibly difficult for me. I love this stuff, and I'm sharing with you. You can see I loved creating the PowerPoint slides. Peggy's seen some of them, but she also hasn't seen other ones because I always revise, and I added new ones. And I spent yesterday doing it. I love showing you. I'm a potter. Verbal discourse is very difficult for me, but if you ask me to show you through drawings, through my blog posts, I could express myself a lot better, and we should allow students the same opportunity. Aren't they cute? I love taking pictures. That's part of what I was saying. I love doing the visuals. Do you and your students normalize failure or mistakes, considering them part of the learning process? We're not so good at that in education. What we tend to do is grade papers for correctness, grade kids' work for correctness, and we don't say, I'm not into celebrating failure. There's a lot of talk about that right now, but I am into normalizing it as part of the learning process. He tried this arm. I'm going to show you in a few minutes that part. He tried this robotic arm. It failed miserably. Nobody cared. He tried it. You don't see him being that upset. He didn't get upset. It didn't work, so what, we move on. And I like that attitude a lot. And to use authentic assessments that provide ongoing and continuous feedback to learners about their performance. I'm on Twitter. I tweeted the other day is that all assessment should continually inform both teachers and students about progress and needed areas of improvement. And in essence, then all assessment should be formative. It should be continuing feeding teachers and students with information about what is going right, what needs assistance. And Maker Education, it's built in. Either the things work or they don't work. And that's why people like gaming. Either you get to the level or you don't get to the level. I like natural ways of feedback, and Maker Education does that. And you can build in others, like we have group discussions, which I'll show you in a little bit about people talking about their ideas where they get feedback. So that's a little bit more built in by the educator, but it's still more natural. It's part of life. You know, I show my pottery in class and people critique it. The same thing in Maker Movement. People show their products and get critiqued not only by the teacher but their peers, which is very powerful. And Peggy knows this story. This is a kid, very quiet, very low income, got into my gifted class. I have the gifted kids 1 full day a week. He didn't care about grades, just kind of floated through, and he figured out how to build this solar Ferris wheel. And kids from all other classes, he'd go out and put it out while they were going to lunch, and they loved to stop and see it, and the pride in this kid was amazing. It was really cool. All right, so now it's your turn. What I'd like you to do, because if you make a commitment, either verbally or written, thanks, Caitlin, is put in the 1 or 2 areas that you'd like to get better at, given whatever situation, whether you're working with adults, kids, colleagues. So I'll go through them again, and I don't know how many of the 12 of you are actually listening, but I hope some of you are. And I'll go through them again quickly, but what I'd like you to do is make a commitment for 1 or 2 of these that you'd say, yeah, I'd really like to do this more in my teaching and learning setting. This is the interactive part. All right. So I'm going to give a few seconds on each one. I see Heidi and Janelle writing. Tamara. Yeah, I'll show you. I'm actually going to show you that in a minute. So what is your commitment in terms of becoming an educator with a maker mindset? I think it's just, about just giving her things to do related to the areas you're teaching her, and let her figure some things out. Get online and find out, and I'll show you, I'm going to share some resources for maker activities. And then connecting. Yeah, their voice is, again, for me, in all its forms. Again, I'm going through these to see which ones spark an interest to you. Oh, that's my thing. I have a Pinterest board and I have an ebook. And I'll give you links to those in a few minutes. And a couple curriculums I've done with kids on some wikis. Again, if any of these spark an interest, either as a homeschooling parent, teacher, Yeah, I just added a new one yesterday. I think, Peggy, I'm still trying. I was hoping to get a gifted position, but the schools, they seem to have none, and now they're not asking for any. I would have my kids make games. I think there's a lot of value in that. And even Minecraft, it is a game and it's produced, but there's a lot of making in that. I do too. Do you know Kane's Arcade? And the Blackboard Challenge and the Cardboard Challenge. That's a great maker. All right. So this is another thing link. I did an overview of the roles that an educator has as a maker educator. And within those, like, Janelle, can you explain that a little bit more? And while she's explaining that, you can ask a question. I'm going to show you a few more resources because I still have another hour, but that doesn't of material, but I'll just share with you quickly, and then you'll have the slide share. So this is a thing link. These are what I consider some of the major roles as an educator. Again, it could be a parent educator of a homeschooler. It could be a maker space, and I've done some programs in the local museum. It could be a librarian. When I say educator, it's anybody who educates kids, and it could be in any setting, and I believe these are some of the roles that the educator as a maker educator has. And if you click into that thing link, you'll find that there's resources for each one. I think it depends on, and this is not my own perspective, Janelle, if it's pre-made games, yeah, Heidi, I think maker education is perfect for people who get kids to do their own education. A lot of the maker stuff, yesterday on the news, this is an example. I just want to set up the climate for kids to be great, and the maker education does that. A lot of kids, Jack Androki, he developed a test for pancreatic cancer when he was 17. He did it on his own because his biology teacher got mad if he went online. So he went on Wikipedia and did videos, and he won Intel Science Fair because he did it on his own. Yesterday on the news, there was, no, this is actually what I have, my Pinterest is for the younger kids. So this is the example from yesterday, Tamara. He was, this 11-year-old has cancer, and she invented a backpack for chemotherapy so she wouldn't seem weird. An 11-year-old. So these kids are doing it for themselves. Just imagine if we set up a climate where we actually, I'm trying to find you that link, where we actually set the climate. That's for me what maker education is. Setting up the conditions for kids to be their own maker. Yeah, this stuff's great. Exactly, Peggy. They're creating our, yeah, I get chills too. It's exactly about empowering the kids. And what's happened through the ages, and that's why I shared the stuff with you at the beginning, like with Dewey, we got away from this idea of kids driving their own language, and when we've gotten into the standardization, and I've been talking this about it as an educator about this for years, about everything's a widget. Kids read the same books. You know, they've taken Anne Frank for middle schoolers, reduced it to 5 pages and put it in their English textbooks and having them learn about Anne Frank. I mean, something's wrong when we want to just produce kids that are good test takers so we can get them to have a high test score at the end of the year. Oh yeah, there's actually a scratch curriculum that I tweeted about earlier. So I'm just going to share with you some more links because of time. This is a curriculum I did it with, probably it works. I had 7-year-old girls and I had middle school boys do this, from puppets to robots. And at the museum, I did at the Children's Museum, and I had the mixed group. I had 2 girls that were 7-year-olds. I had a couple boys that were 8 and 9, and then I had 2 boys that were 13. And I know that homeschool movement believes the same thing, that we don't need to categorize kids by date of manufacture. Actually, the older kids liked it too. The older kids liked the puppets too, because of the way they were structured. So here's the curriculum. I put it on a wiki space, so Heidi, I think, was excited about links. So here's the whole curriculum. You could actually click into it while I talk about it. There's 4 units you'll see when you click into it. Mechanical arm shadow puppetry, robotic prototyping, and programmable robots. Yeah, isn't that Mike? There's Mike. I've heard that before in lots of conferences, and I just don't understand why we do that. All right, so oops, I'm on my web page instead. So some of the things I did with them, and you could look through the curriculum in your own time. This is a winner. This mechanical arm, I'm actually presenting at a conference for teachers in October on Maker Ed in California, and I always do this. It's just popsicle sticks, and then they have to figure out some hands for it. I give them pipe cleaners and things like that, but it's so easy as a way to get everybody engaged, and they have to pick up items with the hands on the, there you go, thanks. And then, again, I'm into showing kids, my learners, the possibilities, and then getting out of the way. Some got bored with it a little sooner than others. Then I have 3 websites. I have some laptops there that kids could build robotic arms. So I had some kids who kept going with, and I've done this a couple of times with the popsicle sticks and trying to make it better, and then some kids who wanted to get on, thanks, Peggy, who wanted to get on. This last one is a new one, the Wonderville. I just found that. And then this robotic hand is a winner. Almost all kids, you do it with, again, none of these, so far I haven't shown you anything that costs a lot of money. We'll see Maker Movement, and you'll see things like Arduinos and Makeys and hummingbirds, and I like all that stuff, but I can't afford all that stuff. And I'm trying to get a job in a lower income school, so I know they're not going to buy all these things. But none of the stuff I've showed you costs that popsicle sticks. This is some caulking, straws, and cardboard. And the link to that, again, will be in the Google slideshow. I'll share it. I also have it on SlideShare. And it shows you how to do that. And this is a great little, I like to show this video. You can see it. I don't have the link here. You can look it up. Teen uses a 3D printer to craft a hand for a boy. It's so beautiful to see this kid's reaction. You'll see he doesn't have a right hand. Yeah, Makey's cool. But again, if you don't have a lot of money, then you have to figure out other ways to bring in the Maker Movement. And here comes the shadow puppets. And they had a build where you bring in the boys. They had, first of all, how to build a shadow puppet that had a pivot point, because that's a big piece of what this curriculum's about. But then they had to build a puppet and then create a slideshow about how a robot would serve humankind. And the girls, I let them break up in their own groups, and the girls have this nice, gentle, oh, we help each other, and the boys, they have to have a war before the robots help humankind, but that's just natural. It cracked me up. It is true. It's so austere, but as long as they ended up saving humankind, it was fine. This is a great little tool. Again, I try to mix media and give kids a chance to shine. I want all kids to shine at some point during these lessons. This is an online storyboarding. I love it. It's true. They had to storyboard. Yes, it's a great tool. They had to storyboard their stories for their puppetry. Again, a kid might not be good at building the puppets, but he or she will then get on the computer and be able to help with the storyboard. They all got to shine at some point. Then they built, this is one of my favorite parts, they built a robot prototype, and I used a bunch of recycled goods. Oh, okay. I think it was free and it got better. Yeah, I pay for Animoto too. Some of them are just not for $30 a year. I just write it off at the end of the year. It's worth it. But I just collect, yeah, I'll be done. I just collect lots of junk, and then the kids have to do a prototype. And then they have to, I have them create a design before the robots on paper, and then sometimes I have them do it with marshmallow and spaghetti, just as another way to look at it, which again is fun. This kid was at the library. He was just in a bad mood and he wasn't engaged, and then I brought out the marshmallows and the spaghetti and it changed his whole mood. They really do. Then they build the prototype, and again I have some more online tools where they could do it. You could see if you look inside their computer. They do it on computer, and then they do big ones, and then they present it to the rest of the group. This is both teacher and services at the library and at a school I was working at. Yep, and then the final is that this is a hummingbird kit that I had, and then they program robotics. This is an amazing curriculum for all ages, and again, I'll put the link in a minute. And the last pieces are about some of the benefits, but you can look at the slides. I'll share some resources. This is my ebook where all this stuff is. I'm excited. I do ebooks. They're only $3. And then there's also the Invent to Learn by Gary Stager and Sylvia Martinez. It's a great resource. Yeah, libraries are such perfect places to send. And then finally, this is a Pinterest board, and let me put these last two links in for you. And then if you have a question in these last 2 minutes, and then we'll head over to the keynote. Here's the slides from today, and they have all the links I shared. I love sharing. And let me get that Pinterest. Oh, I could just scroll down and get it for you. Here's the Pinterest board. I think it was Janelle that was looking for kids' activities for younger kids. That is my focus of this Pinterest board because I do work with elementary students. But I think you could see you could adapt a lot of these for any age group. And you could see, I love that Peggy said, my aha today is Peggy said, those of us who talk about Maker Education are passionate, and we are. And I think you heard that in me. But if you look at, like Peggy was saying that the slides were great, they're my slides. They're from my activities. And what I hope you saw was engagement and passion, and you didn't see bored. I showed you of all ages because it's exciting. I get chills when I see these aha moments, even of my adults, and excitement and laughing, and it's just magical, and that's why I love to teach. So, Tamara. So we're going to close. You have my resources. Is there any final questions? Thank you. Tamara, are you on Twitter? If I don't follow you, say hi and I'll follow you back. Thanks, Keely. Thanks, Mike. You're welcome to tweet me or email me with any questions. Oh, I like to be stopped on Twitter anyhow. Thanks for coming, and go pass it on. Go pass it to the next person. I'll have to find you, Tamara. Say hi to me on Twitter, and then I'll follow you back if I'm not following you. Well, thanks again, and I'm going to go watch the keynote, too. Thanks, Rochelle. Thanks for helping out. It ended up being, we ended up a little late, but we got it worked out. Yeah, Wu is right. I do appreciate your help. All right, I'll go find you on Twitter, Tamara. Oh, there you are. I'm already following you. Anybody who's an advocate for neurodiversity, I can't help but follow. That's a great yes. Me too, as you can tell. All right. Thank you again, and thanks for the tweets, Tamara. All right, I'm going too. We'll see you. Thank you.